This is Ballistic Gel Battle. Heritage Roscoe versus Smith & Wesson Bodyguard 2.0.
It's time for another entry in our Ballistics Gel Test series. In today's video, we will be using two firearms that are popular on the channel. Of course, Smith & Wesson Bodyguard 2.0, chambered in 380 ACP, going head-to-head against the Heritage Roscoe in 38 Special Plus P, though we're not shooting any Plus P ammunition today. In 380 ACP, the ammo that's going head-to-head in today's video is Hornady Critical Defense. This is a 90 grain projectile with the FTX bullet, kind of like a ballistics tip, that will be going head-to-head against the Federal Premium HydraShock Low Recoil. This has a 90 grain HydraShock jacketed hollow point projectile. And we also have, of course, 38 special ammo represented in today's video. You guessed it, the first entry will be Hornady Critical Defense. This has a 110 grain FTX projectile going head-to-head against Federal HydraShock Low Recoil 110 grain HydraShock jacketed hollow point projectile. But wait, there's more. Both in 38 Special, as our previous ballistics gel video did this test in 380 ACP. Hornady XTP. In this case, it's going to be a 158 grain XTP projectile in 38 Special. We will be doing two different custom hand loads of this ammo, going and seeing how it compares against our factory ammo. Before we get started, let's do a quick questionnaire. Put in the comments which ammo do you think will have the highest velocity, the best hollow point expansion, and the best penetration in our ballistics gel block. Do you think it's going to be one of our 380 ammos, one of our 38 Special factory ammos, or our custom hand-loaded 38 Special? For bonus points, another question you can look into is, which would you prefer? We'll say a slower, heavier projectile or a faster, lighter projectile. Do you think that slower, heavier projectile is going to have better hollow point expansion or penetration? Or do you think the lighter, faster ammunition will have the better hollow point expansion and or penetration on our ballistics gel block? Let us know in the comments, and try not to delete your comment if it's different than what our results show. And now, starting with a velocity test of this ammunition, let's hit the range. We'll start with the Hornady Critical Defense. This is a 110 FTX projectile, kind of like a ballistics tip. We'll be using our Heritage Roscoe with the 2-inch barrel. I will do 5 shots at our target, and we'll see what kind of numbers we get. Here we go. $8.19. I meant to do single action, I forgot. $8.10. $7.76. $7.65. $7.90. The final ammo we're going to try to get numbers on today is the Federal HydraShock. It says low recoil in the box. If you recall our last video, we did not agree with that assessment. This has a 110 HydraShock JHP projectile. Let's see if we can get some numbers on this ammo now. Here we go. Sir, you have signed the waiver, haven't you? $8.77. Yeah. 918, 862, 882, 864. And since we're going to do a 380 versus 38 special gel test using the Hornady FTX, let's do a magazine, or I should say 5 shots of the 380 version of the Hornady. Here we go. $893, 901, 926, 928, 901. All right, we're back out here today. Just doing a quick velocity follow-up test from yesterday. We saw some of our reloaded ammo, which we're going to shoot another 9-ish rounds of it today, trying to figure out where it's actually hitting on the paper, which will be the first 9 we shoot. This is the 158 grain Hornady FTX projectile, loaded with 3.5 grains of tight group powder. Mosquito trying to get some blood out of the Roscoe, it looks like. Let's see if we can actually hit the paper today while getting some velocity numbers. Here we go. $628, $612, $525, $619, $593. You'll notice I've also migrated to using a larger target today. Part of that was yesterday when I was shooting and we were completely missing the target. I thought the impacts were high. I just couldn't tell how high. So now today what I can say is it's patterning a good 6 to 8 inches high compared to my point of impact. I'm actually aiming at the low number 7 on that sort of half silhouette target. Let's do these last 4. $586, $633, $576, $602. Okay. Now I've also loaded up some that should be a little faster. These are using 3.8 grains of tight group powder, the same 158 grain projectile. Let's start a new shot sample. These first 5, I'm going to shoot the same target in case it is also patterning what I would call extremely high on the target. Here we go. $648, $664, $669, $661, $665. So, faster velocity, which is closer to the ballpark we're looking for. We want to be, ideally, we would be above, another mosquito, 700 feet per second. Though out of this short snub-nosed barrel, that's really the limiter here. The max recommended for the powder was 3.9, so we're just a little under that at 3.8. Now, another mentionable is 3.8 grains of powder in this cartridge takes up a very small amount of space. So if you're not careful, you can easily maybe 10 times your load on there, which would be good. Let's shoot at our bottom left target. I'm going to see if I can get these 5 on that paper, which will be critical for being able to hit our ballistics gel that's about that same profile. Here we go. Okay, we're just above the paper, 675, 671, 665, 669, 685. Oh, I think that's it. Okay. 3 in the target, 1 on the paper, a 4th mystery one. But at least we know we're in the ballpark of where we'll be able to hit our gel tomorrow. One of the ammos that we planned on testing out of the 38 in the ballistics gel test was the Federal HydroShock low recoil 110 grain for 338 special. I got to thinking this morning, and I'm like, I think I have some 380 HydroShock low recoil. I checked the ammo box. Sure enough, I do. This is 90 grain HydroShock low recoil jacketed hollow point. So we might as well test that in the ballistics gel as well. Let's get some velocity numbers on it first. We'll do 5 shots at our top right-hand target. All right, here we go. 900, 956, 951, 977, 939. Pretty decent group out there. Nice. Let's crunch the numbers, starting with our Hornady critical defense in 38 special. In 38 special, our critical defense has an advertised velocity of 1,010 feet per second for 249 foot-pounds of energy, though that's from a 4-inch barrel. Out of the 2-inch barrel of our Heritage Roscoe, our average achieved velocity came out to 792 feet per second for 153.2 foot-pounds of energy, quite a bit less velocity and energy compared to what is advertised. The Federal HydroShock low recoil has an advertised velocity of 980 feet per second for 234.5 foot-pounds of energy, also out of a 4-inch barrel. Out of the 2-inch barrel of our Roscoe, our average achieved velocity came out to 880 feet per second for 189.1 foot-pounds of energy. While less than what's printed on the box, nowhere near as big of a difference as we saw compared to our Hornady critical defense. What we'll call our low velocity XTP, charged with 3.5 grains of tight group powder, we expected around 700 feet per second for 172 foot-pounds of energy. However, out of the 2-inch barrel of our Roscoe, we only got an average of 597 feet per second for 125 foot-pounds of energy, quite a bit less than what we expected. What we'll call the medium velocity XTP, this time loaded with 3.8 grains of tight group powder, we expected 775 feet per second for 210.7 foot-pounds of energy. However, out of that 2-inch barrel, again, our average velocity, while faster, was still at 667 feet per second, less than the 700 we were shooting for only 156 foot-pounds of energy. Moving now to our 380 ACP, starting with the Hornady critical defense, advertised velocity on the box is 1,000 feet per second for 199.8 foot-pounds of energy, though out of a 4-inch barrel. Out of the 2 3/4-inch barrel of our Bodyguard 2.0, our average achieved velocity comes out to 910 feet per second for 165.5 foot-pounds of energy, less than what's printed on the box, though to be expected with a shorter barrel. Our Federal HydroShock low recoil in 380 ACP has an advertised velocity of 1,000 feet per second, again for 199.8 foot-pounds of energy, though interestingly, Federal has their test at a 3 3/4 inch barrel instead of 4 inches like the Hornady. Our average achieved velocity with the 2 3/4 inch barrel of our Bodyguard 2.0 came out to 945 feet per second for 178.4 foot-pounds of energy, a little less than what's printed on the box, though again to be expected with a 1 inch shorter barrel. Looking at all those numbers at the same time, we can see that our 380 ACP ammo had the highest velocity numbers of the day. In terms of our critical defense, that higher velocity allowed it to have more energy foot-pounds compared to our 38 Special, though in terms of our HydroShock ammo, even though it's a little faster in velocity, our HydroShock 38 Special ammo had more energy compared to the 380 ACP, which mostly has to do to that higher weight bullet. For our low and medium velocity XTP reloads, we can see that we had quite a bit less velocity in general compared to the factory ammo, and while we had less energy, at least on the low recoil side, our medium velocity XTP came out at slightly more energy compared to our critical defense 38 Special ammo, with a lot of that coming down to, again, that much heavier weight bullet, giving it a little extra oomph. These are just numbers on a page though. Let's now see how these bullets perform against something that's not holes on paper, and we're going to start that test with our t-shirt water jug shot just to see how our low and medium velocity reloads do against something before we put them through the ballistics gel. We're going to do one shot with our ultra low velocity ammunition. As a pre-test, we have a t-shirt wrapped in, or I should say we have a gallon of water wrapped in a t-shirt backed up by the high-tech fleece bullet stopper. We're going to see if this ammo that's about 590 to 600 feet per second even does any ballistics, any hollow point expansion before we do our gel test. Here we go. Okay, got a hit on the target. As a second test of our hand-loaded ammo, we're going to shoot the same thing, a gallon of water wrapped in a t-shirt, this time using the Hornady XTP projectile that's around 665 feet per second, or maybe 75 feet per second faster than our previous reload. Here we go. Okay, we got impact on the front. Hard to tell if it went all the way through. It went all the way through. It definitely went all the way through. And high-tech fleece bullet stopper is weighed down by water. Where'd you go? Projectile. Got it. Okay. Well, there is some material from our t-shirt. The copper jacket is peeled back a little bit. I would say not really any hollow point expansion. It's peeled back the copper jacket a little bit, but the inner lead core to me looks unchanged.
It would still do some damage.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, that'll count as a slight bit. I'll measure it when we get home, when I get home on a caliper. Because it is, if you compare it to this one, you can see it is going to be a little bit bigger diameter. know, this is probably why Hornady recommends a velocity above 700 feet per second. The lead core looks like it does not expand at the under 700 feet per second range. Okay, that was useful. Now we're moving on to our factory ammo. Both the Hornady Critical Defense and the Federal Hydroshock have more velocity than my hand-loaded ammo. Let's go ahead and test these at the Ballistics Gel. Starting with the Hornady Critical Defense. This is a 110 grain, 110 grain FTX. It's kind of like a ballistics tip projectile at our ballistics block. This ballistics gel block, here we go. We're hoping for 2 hits on our block today. Now we're going to shoot our same ballistics gel block using, again, Hornady Critical Defense, though this time our 380 from our Bodyguard 2.0 and a 90 grain FTX projectile. Hopefully I don't put them in the same exact spot as I did for our 38. Cross your fingers, here we go. Okay, now let's try our Federal Hydroshock low recoil. Starting with our 38 special, again out of the Roscoe. This is a 110 grain projectile. Let's see how our penetration expansion does with this ammo. Here we go. Let me walk down real quick. Ooh. The 38 special Hydroshock low recoil penetrated completely through our block with some spectacular wound channel action, such that we had to break out one of our backup ballistics gel blocks for the 380 test. It's got a ways to go. Let's see if the 380 can match it or beat it. Here we go. After seeing our t-shirt test and no hollow point expansion, we weren't originally planning on ballistic gel testing the 665 feet per second XTP out of our 38. But with this block of gel being mostly unshot, we figured we would shoot it at this one so we can at least gauge the penetration depth of this ammo. Here we go. We saw with our 665 feet per second XTP 38 special, 100% penetration through the block with no evidence of hollow point expansion. Let's see what the penetration looks like from our 590-ish feet per second 38 special. Here we go.
Let's crunch the numbers, starting in the order that we shot them. Our Hornady Critical Defense 38 Special with the 110 grain projectile has the average velocity from our 2-inch barrel of 792 feet per second for 153.2 foot-pounds of energy. That translated to 12 inches of penetration on our block, with expansion to 0.429 inches, or an increase in size of 20%. The critical defense out of our Bodyguard 2.0, with its 2 3/4 inch barrel, has an average velocity of 910 feet per second for 165.5 foot-pounds of energy. That yielded 9.5 to 10 inches of penetration on our ballistics gel block, with expansion to a 1/2 inch, or an increase in size of 40% to the diameter. The third ammo we ballistics gel tested was the Federal HydroShock 110 grain from the 2-inch barrel of our Heritage Roscoe. That yielded 880 feet per second on average for 189.1 foot-pounds of energy. This fully penetrated our block, giving us greater than 16 inches of penetration, though we saw little to no expansion. On the one round that showed the barest minimum of expansion, we had expansion to 0.377, or an increase to the diameter of 6%. The HydroShock low recoil, this time 90 grain, jacketed hollow point from the 2 3/4 inch barrel of our Bodyguard 2.0, has an average velocity around 945 feet per second for 178.4 foot-pounds of energy. This yielded 10.5 to 11 inches of penetration on our gel block, with expansion to 0.464 inches, or an increase in size to the diameter of 30%. What we're calling our medium velocity reloaded 38 Special with the Hornady XTP projectile, out of the 2-inch barrel of our Heritage Roscoe, had an average velocity of 667 feet per second for 156 foot-pounds of energy. This yielded greater than 16 inches of penetration on our block. All rounds fired went completely through our block, though we saw no real hollow point expansion. We did have one round that looks a bit like a chest burster or an alien egg opening from Aliens, which did show expansion to 0.411 inches, or an increase in size of 15% to the diameter, though that's mostly just the copper jacket peeling back with no evidence of deformation to that lead core. And finally, what we're calling our low velocity reload using the Hornady XTP. Out of our 2-inch Roscoe, our average velocity was 597 feet per second for 125 foot-pounds of energy. We had between 15 inches and greater than 16 inches of penetration on the block, depending on the round you looked at. Though all rounds captured by the high-tech fleece bullet stopper had no evidence of expansion, they measured out at 0.357 inches, or the size they started, for 0 increase in size to the diameter. Now, if we look at all those numbers at the same time, we can see that with the little faster velocity, though lighter projectile, of our 380 ammo, we did see better hollow point expansion compared to the 38 Special. With our 38 Special, we did see some hollow point expansion on that Hornady critical defense in the 20% range, though that's probably less than ideal. We certainly see better expansion even at our 380 level. Moving to our HydroShock ammo, and we saw little to no evidence of hollow point expansion, though very good penetration with that ammo. And I think a lot of that has to do with, while this ammo was moving much faster than our reloaded ammo, we still didn't have enough velocity and energy to yield much of any hollow point expansion. Now, moving to our reloads, they do have quite a bit less in the velocity and energy compared to their factory counterparts, though we see little to no evidence of hollow point expansion, none at all on what we're calling the low velocity, and what we're going to say, none. We have 15% on the graph, but that was one projectile, so really most of our samples, none. Though for both, surprisingly, very good penetration in the 15 inches for one shot, though all of our other shots fired completely penetrated our ballistics gel block.
We have reached the conclusion to yet another video. Raise your hand if you were as surprised as I was by some of the results we saw here today. In terms of our Hornady critical defense ammo, in 380 ACP, we got the results I would expect, though we've tested that ammo a few times in the past, and I would say our results today were fairly consistent with the results we previously achieved with this ammo. In 38 Special, I would say the results we saw today also met my expectations, though I didn't expect it would exceed our 380 ACP in terms of penetration, though I probably should have. While we did see good penetration from that ammo, we didn't see quite as much hollow point expansion as with the 380 ACP, though we at least did see in that 20% range of hollow point expansion for the 38 Special, which is better than nothing. In terms of our HydroShock ammo, again for 380 ACP at least, I would say it met my expectations. It had hollow point expansion pretty similar to what the picture on the box shows, and penetration that was in the very good range for 380 ACP. For 38 Special, in some ways it exceeded my expectations. I didn't expect it to fully penetrate the 16 inches of gel, though I did expect to see a little more hollow point expansion than we saw. In that 6% neighborhood, that's little to no hollow point expansion. For all intents and purposes, we'll say no hollow point expansion. I thought we would at least see hollow point expansion while not matching what's on the box, similar to what we achieved with our Hornady critical defense. If we had not seen as good a penetration as we saw, I would say it was disappointing, but because we had that very good penetration, combined with spectacular wound channels, which I'm going to throw up to probably tumbling of that round as it passed through the gel, in my opinion, it at least ended up exceeding my expectations as a result. Now moving to our reloaded ammo, this is one where in many ways, I would say we exceeded my expectations. At the low 600s, the 590 to 600 range, and then the 665-ish range, I didn't expect that we would see much of any hollow point expansion, with Hornady recommending that 700 to 1500 feet per second range, so we sort of lived up to expectations on that front, though I wasn't expecting in both our water jug and our gel penetration tests to go as well as they did. Now, unfortunately, my camera did not start for the breakdown of that low velocity round into our water jug test. Though on that test, the low velocity, what we're calling XTP projectile from our 2-inch Roscoe barrel, it fully penetrated the front of the t-shirt and went completely through the water jug. It penetrated the back of the t-shirt and was found in the first or second layer of our high-tech fleece bullet stopper. Similar to what we saw from the medium velocity ammo on that breakdown, though unlike that medium velocity breakdown, there was no evidence of any type of deformation or expansion. It looks like we could probably reload that round and use it again in the future if we were so inclined. I expected with that low recoil test or low velocity test into the jug that the round would penetrate the front of the t-shirt, it would go into the water jug, and that I would find it when I unwrap the t-shirt sitting in the bottom of the water jug. I didn't expect it to exit the water jug, penetrate the t-shirt, and then go into our high-tech fleece bullet stopper. I did expect that to happen with the medium velocity ammo, though I did not expect it to peel back the copper jacket like what we saw. It's on our graph as some hollow point expansion, though I'm disinclined to actually call it much of any hollow point expansion. Our shots through the ballistic gel showed really no evidence of any hollow point expansion, though again, below 700 feet per second, and I would call that expected. The one area that I would say was also a little unexpected, besides penetrating that gel block completely on most of our shots, was we can see wound channels that are pretty decent, and they seem to develop in the sort of latter half of the block rather than close to the front. And I think that comes down to, in my not an expert opinion, when the rounds start tumbling in the gel and dumping that energy. I think they start tumbling sort of in the latter half of the gel, which is where we see those better than expected wound channels. So now that we've got to the tail end of the conclusion, did your prediction at the beginning of our video match the results? Let us know in the comments, and hopefully you didn't delete your pre-prediction because, well, hey, it's more fun if we can see the before and after. Well, anyway, that seems like the perfect spot to end today's video. If you enjoyed today's presentation, like the video, share it with your friends and family, drop a comment on there. Those things are free, and they really help the channel greatly. If you'd like to help us make more of these ballistic gel test videos in the future, look into becoming a member. These videos require a great deal of time and resources, and, well, we need your help if we'd like to do more of these videos. Fred and I really appreciate you getting this far. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a good night.